We are tonight's entertainment. Welcome to
Nice.
the 100th episode of the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. As always, as usual, I'm your host, Tom Detloff, and with me tonight, Joe Christiana, Max Cook, Adam Shoulder. In a little while, we're going to be talking to former retired police officer Tom Payson.
He's not retired. He's just a former.
All right, jeez, Max, leave me alone. I'm all hyper over here.
You're shot out of a cannon.
I know. Former police officer Tom Payson. He's also Max's father-in-law, Joe.
No.
He's not my father-in-law, you dumb shit. He's my stepdad.
He's also Max's stepfather, Joe.
You can't even get out of the gate.
Outstanding. So good.
Way to bring in the guest, Tom.
It's so good.
I love the yelling, Tom. Our 100th episode. Holy shit, you did. You brought it back.
Right? And I'll tell you something right now. I can't even believe we've made it this far. I mean, this is just completely ridiculous.
That's right.
The fact that we've done 100 episodes of this crazy little show is completely absurd. Completely.
Just shows you how none of us have anything to do at all. How full our lives are.
Listen, it's
100 freaking episodes.
It's been going on for 4 years, Joe. 4 long years.
Right. I remember when we first started it. Are we doing the memory lane thing?
We're gonna do that. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I wanted to let everyone know. I'll let the fans know. We're gonna we'll take a little stroll down memory lane today, and I'm gonna ask the guys on the show tonight to give me their most favorite memory so far on the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. Next episode, we'll do least favorite memory. I figure we'll get the goodness out of the way first. We all haven't been together in a little while. We'll get some nice, sweet activity going, and
start on a positive.
Start off on a positive note, and then next week we'll start. We'll begin the spoils, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. What's your favorite memory, Tom? Why don't you still?
Really, I'm gonna have to kick this thing off, aren't I?
Well, you caught us all off guard. Nobody.
Well, this gives everyone some time to think. And plus, Adam's only been on the show for a year, so I'm very excited about what he's gonna say. But seriously, I've given this a lot of thought today, and I'm not kissing anybody's ass here. I'm not, Listen, I'll tell you what my favorite memory is.
Okay.
And I'm not joking around when I say this. And to me, this is one of the most exciting things that had still has ever happened to me doing what little entertainment I do, is when Max Cook said that he'd be on the Cutting Room.
Oh, badass. That's awesome.
It's true. Because to me, when we started this show, we did 2 episodes, and in our 3rd episode, Max, I got in touch with Max on Facebook. I was friends with him on Facebook. He had no fucking idea who I was. Probably couldn't care less. I asked him to come on this little podcast that Joe and I started. I'm like, hey man, we just started this podcast. Can you come on as a guest? We're doing horror movies. And Max loves horror movies, as we all know. So he immediately jumped out. He's like, sure. And Max was like a total, just beyond professional. He almost taught me how to be somewhat professional doing the show on that episode. Like, I really handled it. I tried to handle it as professionally as I could. And to me, it could have been having Marlon Brando on the show. As far as I was concerned, to have Max on the show.
You were a huge fan.
I am a huge fan. And
you
so I was in total awe. I'm like, this is the most incredible thing that that could possibly happen doing this fucking podcast. I got Max Cook on my
Billy and I were just like, okay, who the hell is
Max Cook? But to me, I was really into his Max and Adam's Bowler Hat channel. I watched those videos. I would stalk him on his IMDb page whenever there was activity there, blah blah blah. And I'm in love with this dude. And for this guy to go on my 3rd episode to get Max Cook on my show as a guest, I was just like, boy, this is going to be a lot of fun doing something. Joe, it's going to be a lot of fun. If I get this guy on, I could do anything. So listen,
and a lot of anxiety as well, because you got to remember that he brought us to a crash on the Horror Palace, right?
Ultimately, yes. But we're talking about the positive thing here.
Oh, that's
So
right.
anyway, Max comes on the third episode as a guest, and Joe, if you remember, we had this great dynamic going with the four
Oh,
of us.
Matt. Well, listen, Max is a consummate professional on air. I think that probably one of his greatest talents and strengths is being like doing this radio / podcast thing. I mean, he just loves
That's why
it,
he keeps coming back.
and he brings a
And
lot
he's good
to
at
it.
Right, absolutely. He's very good at it, and he enjoys.
And he upped all our games, so you can't ask for
Changed
anything.
the show
better.
forever.
Oh, Max, you must be in all your glory right now.
No, but listen, real quick. So he comes on episode 3, Joe. I just want to go over this real quick. He's a guest. Great episode. I mean, this was like the first time the show really clicked, I think, where it was just like moving and just grooving and everybody's having a good time. I remember I felt buzzed when I was done recording that episode. Like I was like in heaven. I couldn't believe it. So I get in touch with you a few days later and we bounce around this idea of possibly asking Max to join the show. I think he would just say, thanks, fellas, blah, blah, blah. It was a good time. I'll come back on maybe, in a year or whatever. And he accepts the invite, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't think it was as odd as you thought it was. Again, I don't think that I had the proper amount of reverence for Max at that point.
You just thought it was no big deal. Like
I did, I really didn't. I mean, I love the guy, and I have great respect
here. He's all excited about this cook, dude. I couldn't care less about him.
You're like, oh, you didn't want to ask him.
I didn't. No, I was afraid to ask him.
Confidence to ask him if he wanted. I mean, all I did was like, hey, Max, it was great having you on the show the other day. If you want to come on, you're welcome anytime, even if you want to be a semi-regular.
That's what we tagged him, as semi-regular at first.
Yeah, he's still semi-regular. I think he's been demoted back down to semi-regular, from what I understand from the.
But that would be maybe an irregular, possibly.
In my world, Joe, that was to me the best moment, still to this day.
I love that, Tom. You are a man full of contradictions, because if nothing over this last winter break, I mean, Max has. I think since our last recording, based on what happened on the last recording, you've been having an extreme amount of anxiety.
Well, and he's a real terror, but we'll get to that on the next episode of what my least favorite moment is.
Okay.
But right now, let's just try to keep it positive. Max Cook, the addition of Max Cook, getting Max Cook on as a guest, and then a couple episodes later, him agreeing to being part of this show, to me, will always rank number 1.
Yeah, there's been so many nice moments. All right, I'm gonna stay. I have a whole bunch. I'm looking through our schedules actually, and there's so many like high points for me. Like I love the Jackass episode. I love the Sherry Strong episode. I love the Fellini episode. Even though we were yelling at each other.
You love the Fellini episode?
I did in a weird way. I even the thing is that after you put some time over it, even like the stuff that's the most anxiety filled, it becomes the best stuff. Like even that all that business with me and Max when we were arguing with the Super 8 and Ghostbusters.
And Joe, you're right. That Jackass episode is really special. And plus Adam was a part of that as well early on.
Yeah,
that's right. Jackass 3D was on late at night last night. I couldn't sleep. It was on. I watched the whole friggin' movie, and all I kept thinking about was those 2 weeks watching those movies and then talking about them. That was some of the best on-air craziness that this show has ever had to offer.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of crazy shit. For some reason, we're never afraid to argue with each other, which ends up being like a terrible thing at the time, but then it always ends up turning out to be, in hindsight, it's good because we heal or whatever. All right. Well, I'm going to give you my favorite moment. And this is, all right, I'm going to give you two of my moments here, right? And it has less to do with actually what happened on this show. It has more to do with what happened on Max's and Adam's the bowler hat show. What'd you guys call
Mimosa.
it? Mimosa.
Which also reached 100 episodes, by the way. I do want to point that out. We'll talk to them about that as well. But Joe, they also did over 100 episodes.
Yeah, that's great. I have no idea where all those episodes are. They're not anywhere. As far as I could see, they're right. I mean, there's not many episodes up. For a whole bunch of the first bunch of them have disappeared. But anyway, the best thing about the show to me was that afternoon and that evening I spent out there in L.A. with Max and Adam, because
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good one.
it was great because it felt like a cutting room show to me in a way, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, and it just made it just showed me that that this little film podcast thing actually had an effect on my life in like a really concrete way, not just me screaming into my computer on
Right.
every other Monday night. It created something actual and real. And
Absolutely, sitting in Max's living room.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden I'm sitting 3,000 miles away
Right.
in Max's living room, and it like became a real part of life.
How
and
nervous were
was
you
really special.
heading up into that condo? Were you nervous?
I mean, I was anxious. I guess anxious a little. I guess a little.
I'd have a heart attack.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't think I'd make it up to past the elevator.
I was really looking forward to it, man. I was very happy to do it the whole time. I thought it was just an experience that I could never. It's just great. Well, once in a while in life, you get these experiences that you can never plan, or you had no way of even conceiving that might happen. And then all of a sudden I'm, pulling up in my rent-a-car, and Max comes, like the real guy. Max
Right.
is there.
Yeah,
the
all
guy
5'2" of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was just recently that I had met Adam, and it was just a fun night altogether. So
It was just the three of you and the
their
wacky
intern.
sound guy they had for the show.
Yeah.
What was his name? Skip or something?
John-
Max, what was his name?
Sean. It was Sean.
Sean, the sound guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why-
all of a sudden I'm sitting next to Nicole LeMay having pizza. It was great,
That
man.
really awesome stuff.
Yeah, that was fun.
And
That
didn't you
was great.
eventually put beer bottles in the dog's
No, that wasn't me. That was Adam all the way. He was doing
I
that.
said no, you doing that's something I would do.
I keep telling you, every time this comes up is because Max, he needs to look perfect in every light. Like he's like planned the lighting system
You
in his,
described his condo as like the chocolate factory and
like it's lit like a Kubrick set, like Barry Lyndon. Like it's got all candles and like dim lighting. So
Orange
I
and
need
red,
like a-
orange and red.
It's like a scene from Barry Lyndon.
are there
I needed like a miner's helmet to get into
Does he-
to get through the kitchen. I needed to put on a miner's helmet so I could see what was going on. And I go to put the beer bottles away, and he's got his dog food in like one of these cute.
to
you know,
be fair,
plastic-
it looks like a trash can. It's a
Yeah,
can.
it's
So
like-
Joe thought it was trash. So he put the beer bottles atop my baby's food. I feed my babies with that food.
Joe.
Jesus, Joe.
Joe, that's an outstanding memory, though. I really like that one. I mean, because that is really special.
It
That
was.
you were able to go out there face to face, Max Cook, Adam Shoulder, and not only that, but you recorded an episode of Mimosa, which must have been a lot of fun. You talked a lot about the show, doing this show, and you talked a lot about.
Oh, the other one that's a real highlight, just in that same vein, Tom, was when you came up here and met Billy for the first time, and we did that live show, the live music show
That's
here
a
in
good
my
memory.
living
That,
room.
and that was weird. And because we don't, if you don't know, we're not all in the same room together. Everyone, we're scattered all over the country here. I mean, Joe and I are in New Jersey. Max and Adam are out in Los Angeles. Billy's in Brooklyn, and Dave Pace would be in Toronto, and so on and so forth. So
Where's Jeremy?
he's in Ohio. So we're all over the place. So we're not like sitting in the same room face to face talking to each other. And Joe, when we did that face to face recording at your house, it was so different doing it. I remember telling Max, I'm like,
great.
this, it's better, obviously, for so many reasons. But I mean, it is just it's so cool to be able to see people's reactions and to be, in the moment with them. It's just such a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous because by the time you're halfway through the recording, you're starting to, lose it a little. You're getting a little tipsy.
Yeah,
Usually
and
when you have
when we did that, we were doing some serious drinking.
Well, it started slow. I mean, the first half of the episode's fine, but the second one, I'm like, I kicked myself because I was like too drunk to
Well,
talk into the
because we
mic.
took like almost 2 hours in between, recordings.
Yeah, I know it was way.
Yeah, the second.
But that was a lot of fun,
definitely.
man. That was a blast.
So that's really cool. So we have Joe's Mimosas, Joe's LA experience on Mimosa, and you're also throwing out there our little musical episode with Ron Muga and Jeff Schreck, with me and Billy. That's just great stuff, and that's so cool, Joe, because they're both live recordings.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think that's what is important to me is that the show really has sort of become a part of my life in a way,
Yeah.
in a very social and real meaningful way to me.
Absolutely.
And I think that just those two instances just really drove home the point that it has really become like an actual part
That's
of my life.
awesome.
You know what I mean?
Well, let's see what Adam has in store for us now. Adam, you've been a regular on the show for what, a little over a year now?
I think that's about right. It feels like that could be a little longer, but maybe something like that.
But you do have some experiences. You popped on the show a couple of times as a guest. Like we mentioned earlier, you were on
That's
the
right.
Jackass show. You also did the Mimosa show with Max for a very long time. And you had Joe out in LA. We were just talking about that. And you did an episode with Joe on Mimosa. But in your short time here, throw something out at me that was where you got off the air. You're like, you know what, this is a pretty wild thing.
Well, oh gosh, favorite moment. Everything you said about Max, by the way, any opportunity to work with this dude, is great.
It's
and I've had
special.
many, and there's many more. And just being a part of the show and working with you guys, I still don't feel the show has even hit its full potential yet. I think it's still on the upswing, and and just love being a part of it. But a hands down, though, favorite moment, no question, is definitely the Bill Murray interview. Was just absolutely the highlight for me. I don't know how you can top that. That was fantastic.
We had Bill Murray on.
These had to be real moments? I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Totally misunderstood.
You thought I wasn't done firing out of the gate.
I thought maybe Adam was like losing and he's like on some other show secretly. He's confusing us with him or something.
Are you pulling like an Andy Kaufman here? Or what?
I might be a little bit. I'm just fucking around. I'm just having a good time, which is why I do this show, because it's a good time. I don't know if I have a favorite moment. Listen, I love when the shows get real. I love when somehow we're talking about a film and then there's a curveball, and anytime that happens, which is many, I love it. I think it gets very real and very cool, and I think it's just great having one big conversation with you guys. It starts with movies and goes from there.
Right, and that has developed and Joe, you know this to be true, like as real as it gets here, there's like a love-hate relationship with the listeners because of that, where they're listening to the show, but they're insisting that we talk about movies, but they're coming back every time to listen to us talk about ourselves as well. And they're kind of like,
Yeah, I think that's the case. It's weird because our stuff goes up onto YouTube, so some people are definitely fans of the show and they come back more, to hear what we have to say, regardless of whatever the movie we're talking about. And some people are finding us because of the movie, that we're talking about. And sometimes we'll be talking about, we'll ostensibly be talking about a movie and never talk about the movie, and then that just immediately drives people away who are first coming into contact with the show. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing, but I think that we all here understand the long range potential of the show. I think we all get that we're a bunch of dudes who love movies and we come and talk about movies, and sometimes that just we talk about it in deep and personal ways, and sometimes that means that you end up not talking much about the movie at all. So
well, and that's why I like this as opposed to just a movie review situation. Because we connect to the movies personally, and it becomes very personal, and that's why it opens the door to those conversations, and that's something that's very cool to be a part of.
I'm with you on that. And you know what, Adam? It's great having you a part of it as well, dude.
Thank you. The last show that I was on, which I think was the last show of last season,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was a really great discussion, just as in terms of just a movie discussion. I really enjoyed that.
Well, Adam, we can surprise people every once in a while.
What were we talking about? Oh, yes, I remember.
That was Wings of Desire and Ex
Yeah.
Ex
Yeah,
Machina.
that was intense. Yeah, ex Makina.
and
Makina,
Altered
Max.
States. Yeah. I just thought it was a fun conversation, but yeah.
All right, let's hear Max because we haven't even heard from Max yet. Max, welcome back to the show. It's the 100th episode. Tell me, do you have one? Do you have a favorite moment?
Well, let me start by saying, Tom, I'm deeply, deeply moved by all the things that you've said and that have Joe.
You know he's just trying to butter you up, Max. So you don't
Before
attack him for the
episode
rest of the show.
No, but here's the thing.
Oh, stop.
You tell me you came at me all nervous and you came at me all worried and, you're sweating in your giant drawers. There's just sweat pressed up against your cotton fabric that's holding your ass. And for me, it was towards the ass end of the first version of Mimosa, and it is my favorite thing to do. To get on a microphone, to talk to people, to have fun is my favorite thing to do. And when you came to me and said you wanted my thoughts, you wanted my personality, you wanted my contribution to this show, I took that more seriously than a paying job, because you want to know what I'm thinking, but at the same time, you want my edge or whatever I offer. At the same time, I think the show over 4 years has ascended to great heights. And then we hit a wall. And that wall was we weren't seeing the potential. We weren't seeing what we could do. We could take this so far because by now we are each our own individual, magnificent personalities. And the fact that I fight with people I've never met in person. And I care so much about people I've never met in person. And that I fixate on people I've never met in person, their health, what's going on in their lives, what they're doing right now, where's this, where's that, is insane. And it's a reflection of the modern world. I'm so glad I got to meet Joe. But Tom, it's like you and I, we've texted here and there, and it's a lot of bullshit, but it's been a while since I've talked to you, about what's going on.
Sure.
And it seems like I can only find out about your gout, your love life, your fear of learning how to edit the show on the show. And I think the thing about that is we make magic out of that. And yes, Joe and I start screaming at each other, and then we settle down, we have a great time, and then we start screaming at each other, and then we settle down, have a good time. But I think it really does come from a mutual respect. And I got to tell you, if I'm going to talk about the fact that, again, the show has ascended, bringing Adam into the show was like icing on the cake, because he is my partner in this medium. And just like you and Joe are partners in this medium, Adam and I, we just have that groove. And it's so funny. Not a conversation goes by when we're talking on the phone in the morning where Adam says mostly, why isn't this a mimosa? Why isn't this a mimosa? Why isn't this a mimosa? Why aren't we talking about this on a show? Because it's just I had a colonoscopy recently. We had a whole 45-minute conversation about a camera being shoved up my ass. Adam, why isn't this a mimosa? Okay, mimosa may come back. We're working on it. We're going to see what we can do. I'm going to try to do my own wine show that I've been developing forever because, again, like you, Tom, I have a fear of technology. But the point is, you can always count on the cutting room as a show. You can always count on a place to go to talk to your buddies about movies, and then it goes beyond that, which I know is it's what I brought when we were on Whore Palace that ruined it. I know in many ways I've ruined the show. I take full responsibility for ruining the show. However, I still believe, first and foremost, that what makes us so magical is we are personalities, and everyone knows our thing now. And we talk about movies, but we talk about how the movies reflect our lives personally. And when you've got a guy like Dave Pace, and he's coming on and having mental breakdowns on the show, that is the best internet radio you could possibly ask for.
Which is, that's not, I mean, I'm not entirely comfortable with that.
You're never comfortable with it.
That's part of the show.
But
you're not comfortable with us bringing that up?
When we'll forget it. You could go back. What was the show that he freaked out on?
He freaked out on
a few of them. Manborg.
No, the last one he freaked out on was
Max. It was Manborg.
No, it was the last one.
It wasn't Manborg.
It was
It
an
was
Ex
some. It
Machina.
was. Oh, it was the horror movie with the guy
It
who
follows.
did like the. Yeah,
It
it
was
follows.
It Follows. And
Just
Right,
go listen to It
go
Follows.
listen
Anybody
to the
who's
It
hearing
Follows
this.
show, you guys. Listen to the dense, thick discomfort coming out of Joe. I mean, you guys don't, you who listen to the show don't ever get to see Joe's Skype photo, but it's of a rooster head with a human eye. Very unsettling. So when you can hear Joe, when you can hear his asshole go whip, and you hear him start to sweat because Dave Pace is having a very
I don't. Yeah, I think the point was that I don't think that if somebody's suffering, we can use it as fodder for
right, but the man is a
It's
grown
like
ass man.
it feels
He is-
exploitation. That's
he
true.
is
I know.
revealing himself on the show, and that's a gift. That's a gift to us. That's a
But what
gift.
if he actually ended up doing something
Everyone
on the
has
show?
to be
Like,
responsible.
what is he gonna do, Joe?
Like
everyone
fucking blow his brain out,
has to-
Tom. You
he's
even
not-
said that.
he's on a new med, Joe. He's happy as fuck.
But that day he wasn't.
Well, that
I mean,
day
that
he
day
wasn't.
He wants
That
to
day-
come back to the show.
Oh, that's the
He
best
does.
news you can. And you guys are talking about ending this thing. That's the best news you could have.
Nobody's talking about ending it except for Tom.
Oh, Tom, I don't even want to talk about
Let's
him.
not talk about that right now, please.
But the point is,
Let's
I
not talk
love
about
you fuckers so much, and you have supplied me a gift because cinema is my life. I love to watch these films. I've got Gaspar Noé's new film, Love, sitting on my Netflix. I'm like, when can we do a special about it? When can we all sit and like put on our phones and watch this together on the cutting room and then talk about it?
Joe,
It's
he says that, but he never wants to talk about the movies.
No, I know.
Well-
As soon as he'll say he like says a couple of like obligatory comments about the movie, and then it goes. He doesn't listen
Like
to
he's
what
doing us
anybody
a
else
favor.
says.
Like he's
and
doing
that's
us
all-
a favor.
Then
That's
he
not
jumps
true
right
about
to
the
his own
listening.
agenda.
That's not true about the listening. I will say that my favorite moment on the show of recent memory, because I have so many, but our interview with Bill Shetty about what he wears when he watches movies. Guys, I don't want to talk about that. Like during the Blair Witch and are you kidding me? Can we applaud Tom right now
Oh,
for getting
seriously.
these fucking people on the show? Eduardo
work.
Sanchez.
That's my
Uh,
favorite thing to do
Great work.
is to do that. And unfortunately, we're
Brian Dennehy, Tom got on the show.
Yeah.
Tom
Frank
works
Whaley.
in a bar, and he got Brian Dennehy on the show. This is where I get so mad at Tom, I want to punch him in the face and break his glasses and buy him a new pair. This guy has the ability to get these people who are very interesting on the show. He got the director of Wonderland on the show. Are you kidding me?
Is cool.
This is where Tom doesn't see his potential. This is where I want to throttle Tom. But this show is still, to this day, not a priority to Tom. It's a hobby, it's a side thing, but Tom could make this show a winner. Tom could have this show on Sirius.
Tom could take control of the show
Yes.
for himself and empower
and
himself.
empower himself. This should be giving Tom life, and it only gives him death.
everything in my life has gone downhill ever since this show started. It has gotten worse and worse. I started off high. I had a girlfriend who had who has a beautiful son. We were living together. That ends. Then
Everything was fine, gone.
everything. Jobs lost.
Nomad Irish.
My father, what he did to me and my
Oh
roommate.
my God.
Ooh.
And just sheer terror there.
Bed
And
bugs.
exactly. Yes.
Gout.
Yes.
Sorrow.
Worse and worse. Then getting a job, getting a good job, and then they say, you know what, we don't need you. Then I have no job for 2 months, and I gotta move. I gotta move out of the county.
Oh my God, you guys never heard the sideshow where Tom and I recorded 45 minutes of me trying to help him with the wine menu at the last restaurant he worked. It was gold. Tom, what did you do with that show? Oh boy. All right, guys.
It wasn't a show.
It was a show and a half.
It wasn't a show.
You're out
It
of
was
your mind.
it was a classroom.
And you
See,
flunked
here,
it, my friend.
there's a very delicate formula and balance to the show, which is Max thinks that, him talking about his toenails is interesting. He'll sit there and talk about his toes for like 8 hours. And Tom wants to move the show along, but Max will never let Tom move the show
he
along.
doesn't. I'm
Like-
terrified of Max.
And so Tom agonizes about.
I'm
not
like
being
a
able-
battered wife. I'm like, so my biggest fear is Max. Hey, Max called me up in one morning going, "Hey Tom, you know what? I'm not going to do this show anymore." Like that's my biggest fear. Like my biggest fear.
And that's why you're.
I
mean,
would
that's
never
why
make
you're
that
always
call.
in
I love
misery.
this show. You're out of your mind, you goon.
Listen, you can't control that anyway. You're living in fear. That's the whole point. Is he's living in fear, and he's agonizing
Stop it.
over not being able to control his own show.
You think NWA lived in fear? You have to be NWA, Tom, with gout and glasses.
And I love that, and I always just chime in on. Look, I got my own problems, obviously, but I chime in when Max is doing that shit to you. But then on the other end, I'm just like, Tom, you just got to tell him to shut up. But he can never tell you to shut up, Max, and he can't do it.
Can't.
We're going to practice that on today's show. Tom,
sucks.
you're going to tell Max to shut up at least 3 times on today's show.
I mean, you don't have to say shut up, Tom. You control the show.
Yeah, but everybody's telling me to say something, so I don't even know what. You know what I'm just like. Everyone's like, say this, say that, say this. So then when it comes time to having to say something, I have no idea what to fucking say.
Like, we defer to you. All you have to say is, all right, we're moving on. Thank you, Max. We'll talk to you in the next segment. Here we go. I mean, that really is it. Dude. That's so easy. You fucking maniac.
A Max and Tom dynamic.
One of my favorite things on the show is when we started doing the Max and Tom in the buddy cop movie. Like that was some of my favorite stuff to picture in my head. Like we're doing colors the next episode, right? So it would be great.
Actually,
if you
nobody
guys...
even knows what the hell we're doing. We haven't even mentioned it yet. In true cutting room fashion. But yeah, the buddy cop movie. Genius. Well, listen, it's been, just crazy. It's been a crazy 4 years. It's been a wild 100 episodes, and I'm just really glad that I've done this, and it's been awesome, and to work with Joe consistently over that period of time, and to reconnect with Joe has meant so much to me. To develop these relationships with, not just Max and Adam, but even Billy, and to have my brother Jeff on, and we've had we've met other people along the line too. Max, Ash Hamilton, was a regular. Jenna Payne, that's another one, and like we mentioned, Dave. It's just been, it's just been great meeting a lot of people, and to occasionally pull in people in the industry and to be able to talk to him,
Doc Shock,
Doc Shock,
Boss Butcher,
whoever, right. Just to talk to directors and actors and actresses, doing all kinds of different work has been awesome. Really. To have, like you said, Max, to have a guy like Brian Dennehy on the show. That's a real treat, and to be able to talk to him and to get into his mind is, that's something extraordinary. And I really hope, and I'm sure actually that the fans appreciate, the listeners appreciate that we do that, because it does take a lot to get all that done, and it's all worth it, in the end.
Tom,
it's been,
do you remember you and me and our hour with Leo Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
How gold was that?
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Leo didn't want to hang up the phone.
No. Well, he was partying. He was
having a good time.
We were talking to his girlfriend.
She loved it.
Of course. Leo. But seriously, it's been such a great ride. And on the next episode, we'll in a more in a more quicker fashion, we'll talk about our least favorite moments. But let me tell you what we have in store tonight and next week, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Max has programmed this Bloods, Crips, and Vatos.
Holmes, Galinye.
It is just outrageous.
Galaguine, motherfucker.
And tonight we're going to talk Straight Outta Compton, which just came out this past year. It was directed by F. Gary Gray. Everybody's aware of this film. A lot of people said it was snubbed by the Oscars, so on and so forth. We'll talk about the film. We'll talk about so much surrounding it. Next week, we're going back a little bit. We're going to talk about Dennis Hopper's film Colors, and Taylor Hackford's movie Blood In, Blood Out, which was, Joe, how long was that movie? About an hour and 20 minutes?
I think it was like 6.5 days long. Yeah, 6.5 days.
Yeah, it was 6.5 days long. Which, wow. If there's a movie that didn't need to be 3+ hours long, it's definitely Blood In, Blood Out. But we're going to talk about them on the next episode. We also are going to bring someone into the panel, Max. So let's get to that because this is, this is pretty exciting. Tom Payson is a former police officer, and more importantly, he's Max's stepfather. So Tom has had a lot to do with your upbringing, Max, does he not?
Yeah, I mean, he came in when I was around, I don't remember, 9 or 10.
Which
or
is young.
11. Very young.
Yeah.
And he came in at a time that was not the right time for him to come in. Who is this man? What is he doing? Why is
When would have been the right time?
maybe after my teens? He came in at a terrible time. Because, my dad died before I was born. The next dad, who I thought was my dad, was an abusive cocksucker. And Tom has a great story about him because Tom met him.
Mhm.
And then Tom comes along, and I hate Tom. I hate him. It's just my mom and me. Fuck you. Who the fuck are you?
Right.
Next thing you know, this guy's putting his hands
No, wait
in my
a second.
mom's undies.
You dislike him immediately because of...
Oh, yeah.
Now, is it because of just what your mom had been going out with before, Tom? Like you were just expecting...
No, I
same old,
wanted
same
my
old, or
mommy. I wanted my mommy all to myself.
You just wanted
I've
mom.
needed my mom. I have
You
mom
did
issues.
not want mom paying attention to any old dude that you didn't know. You
Yeah.
thought you deserved all the attention.
Absolutely.
And you needed that attention.
Yeah, and he was actually a young guy.
Hmm.
He worked at the lab that mom was a nurse, and Tom picked up specimens from the lab at the doctor's office, and that's how they met. Right, Tom?
That is correct. That is
So, this guy comes along and he's finger banging my mom. I was in a bedroom in a shitty Canoga Park apartment, and I look out through the bedroom door, and they're watching That's Incredible, and I'm in bed, and I see Tom lift my mom's towel. Remember when women wore dresses made of towels?
Yes. Yeah, like
Terry cloth.
Terry cloth. Terry
Yep.
cloth.
And then I see him slip his hand down my mom's underpants.
that did not happen. That was just
And he starts finger banging my mom.
that was the demented view of a 9-year-old,
I
very
was
mentally
up-
unstable kid.
I was appalled. I was sickened. And then they would hump, and I would bang on the wall, bum 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 bum. Because these apartments, it was
that's the worst.
what's that that kind of wood? What's the worst wood? Like the thinnest wood? Well, anyway, I'm banging on the wall because I hear everything in Lucas sound. I hear all their moans and their groans. One morning, I walked in on him. Tom's on top of him, mom pumping away. And my mom looks at me and goes, "We're making love."
Making love.
Come on, is this
And
the kind of
I-
introduction that we really want to get into?
You knew what you were getting into, Tom.
I
kidding
hated
me?
this clown. I didn't know who the hell he was or where he came from. I didn't like him.
Max, Tom was a groaner?
I don't know. I think he was kind of a... Mom made some noise, but
Listen, I went through the same kind of nonsense with my mom when she
Right?
would bang her boyfriends, but they would make I would just hear my mom, because she was loud,
yeah.
and that was disturbing, and I would do the same
Too
thing.
busy getting off.
hey! I ended up marrying her, so come on now. I ended up.
All right,
marrying her.
so then he marries her, and I still don't like him. And then slowly but surely, he's
When
trying
does
to
it
bond with me.
When does it turn, Max?
Well,
when
it
I brought
turned
home the
with
porn.
Porn, okay, but before porn, he had this record collection, okay?
Hold on. You porn?
Well,
Oh,
we'll
but-
get into the porn.
All right.
No, but he had a record collection, okay? So he introduced me to Genesis, but when Peter Gabriel was the front man for Genesis.
Okay, that's good, Genesis.
And that blew my fucking head off. You know the song in Peter Gabriel's first solo album, Moribund the Burgermeister? Tom used to drive this shitty Subaru, and he had a little koala bear, those things that would clip on to the sun visors, a little stuffed koala bear that he named Moribund. I'm like, why is he moribund? And Tom would say, oh, well, because of this. And he would pop in I don't know if an 8-track or cassette of Moribund the Burgermeister by Peter Gabriel. And we would listen to that song in his shitty Subaru while I looked at the koala bear, and I'm like, resisting how cool this guy is. because it was awesome. And it blew my mind. And it was just nice to be with someone who wasn't beating the shit out of my mother.
Mm.
Like my stepdad really was into her. And he was a very sweet Jewish boy. So he introduced me to the world of the Jews.
So he got music, Jews, and porn from
And
one
porn.
source.
Yeah,
much
and he's
better does it
complaining.
get?
And he's sitting there riding shotgun with his arms folded.
Yeah, I mean, so how much? I mean, how many young pubescent kids has their father figure bring home cases? And I'm not talking about like with 2 or 3. I mean boxes, like moving boxes of porn, and set it in the living room. Only to know
Videotapes or magazines.
Well, they were videotapes. I owned a company, and we were known as the porn protectors. The FBI would not do any counterfeit infringement. They just didn't care. And so we were contracted. I provided a lot of plainclothes security. We had a lot of guys working for us, but we brought home, I used to bring home my work because I'd have to watch the tapes, and there was a certain part where there was a mark in the right-hand corner, and if that mark wasn't there at a certain time, then we knew it was a counterfeit. So we would try to collect a variety of different samples from our client, and I didn't have enough time during the day, and I'd bring it home and leave it for Jeff and Max and my wife and my friends and the people on the street.
Mm-hmm.
They would all come in, and they would like to see my fish tank and my porn collection.
Tom, let me tell you something right now. That sounds like the greatest job I've ever heard of.
Well, you know what? We not only were investigators, but
They were called executive protection consultants.
I have a martial arts background, and we hired some of the baddest human beings you ever saw on the planet to provide plainclothes security for these guys. One of my guys was working. And not only did we do the videotape, but Max, you'll remember we also did the guy who manufactured the videotape boxes, and he owned a company called CPLC, which was a dildo factory. And this kind of ties into our movie, because the guy we had working for us down there was an off-duty Compton sergeant who got death threats from the H-Ray gangster Crips because of I guess some sort of confrontation they got into. And we literally had to send 11 guys down there with shotguns to keep him from getting killed. And as a footnote, the H-Ray gangster Crips were the set that was responsible for the LA riots. It started right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Max had an interesting upbringing, and we finally, I think maybe now he likes me. I don't know. I like him. I always liked
that's
him.
what I wanted. Before we get into the riots and the Crips and the Bloods and all that craziness, because we're going to be talking about that, Max, just let us know, when was the turning point with Tom? When was it like, all right, enough. I'm not going to pretend I don't like this guy anymore.
Well, he entered my mom, he burped his hot chowder, and 9 months later, my sister was born. Then I liked him.
Yeah.
And she's amazing, and she's one of my best friends. So it's like, all right, you're all right.
Are you still married to Max's mom now?
I am, and that's a miracle. But yeah, I am. She's as crazy as Max is, and so if you can imagine that, she's an incredibly gifted artist, like her son, and a little bit out on a ledge.
But she's an emotional roller coaster, I would imagine.
She is the type that keeps everything locked. She's completely different than Max. Max will let you know exactly how he feels when he feels it. She'll let it boil until all of a sudden the kettle is screaming.
And that's tough to deal with, man. A woman like that.
It is. And let me tell you something. I'm 9 years younger than she is. I was.
Wow.
I never. It's not like I was going out with this woman because I never dated. That wasn't an issue for me. I just happened to really fall for her. So you think about it, and every one of my friends said, "What are you, fucking nuts? You're going out with an older woman who's getting divorced, and she has a psychotic kid, when you can not have to do any of that." And it got to the point. Well, you were, you banging.
It was evident from.
And then there was this drama with the stepfather, who was a 6'5" bodybuilding, just this huge guy. And by total fluke of the universe, I worked on the same floor he did at the LA Mart downtown in the fashion industry. and
This is my mom's husband prior to Tom.
they were going through a divorce, and he threatened her and threatened Max. And you have to understand the dynamic. He's 6'5", and he's a bodybuilder. He's enormous. I'm 5'8", and I'm not a bodybuilder. And at that time, I was very slim. And I met him in the bathroom at this. I saw him go in. My office was right by the bathroom. I went in, and it was just he and I. And I introduced myself to him. He knew who I was. And I told him that he's not allowed to walk up the stairs to come pick Max up on Sundays or whenever that was. And if he came up the stairs, he would go down head first. And if he threatened her again, that he would be paying hospital bills for a long time. Now, I didn't know if I could do anything about it, but I made it clear. Guys, the funniest part of that story is his right leg started to shake, and he started to tremble. And it showed me just what a piece of shit pussy he was. You can hit a woman, But I kind of did. I did like out of a movie, I said, "Hey, ask about me on the floor here." And nobody knew who I was, but I said, "Go ahead, ask about me on the floor here."
You said that? That's awesome. I got to use that one.
Yeah, you go ahead and because he knew somehow he knew I was in the martial arts, and I said, "Go ahead and ask about me on the floor. They'll tell you I'm crazy. Go ahead, ask about me." Nobody knew me. It just was a bluff. But
that's crazy.
The funniest thing, the next time he came to pick up Max. I was over there, and he waited at the bottom of the stairs for Max to come downstairs. That stopped pretty quick. Max stopped seeing him very shortly thereafter because.
And I was getting more into Tom. Tom, going back to executive protection consultants, Adam will love this. Tell the boys your Hunter S. Thompson story real quick.
Oh yeah, one of the great things about being in that industry are the type of people that I met. I mean, I met. Ilo Appleby, who was a famous producer. I mean, I met all the porn stars coming in and out, but I'm sitting in my office. Now, remember, we did all the copyright infringement investigations, and the hot movie in video at the time was Behind the Green Door. With Marilyn Chambers. That was a huge hit, and the Mitchell brothers owned that. So they wanted to talk to us about finding out who is counterfeiting this. And I'll finish the story by telling you who was eventually counterfeiting it. And so I'm sitting in my office, and it's early in the morning, and I knew Jim Mitchell was coming. And look, Jim Mitchell to me was a god. I wanted to meet Jim Mitchell. It's before the movie and everything.
No Artie, just Jim.
Just Jim. It was Jim and a guest.
Did you ever meet Artie?
No, only Jim. I only met him this one time. So I'm in my office. Walking into my office is Jim Mitchell. I says to my secretary, "I'm here to see Jeff and Tom." My partner's name was Jeff, and I said, "Hey, Jim." He goes, "Just a second. My buddy's coming from the car," and in comes walking Hunter S. Thompson. And I said, I don't get starstruck very often. I was starstruck, and I said, "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" He goes, "I'd prefer a Heineken." It just so happened I had a refrigerator full of all kinds of beer, and I dug out a Heineken, and I sat there, and we put together a plan to find out who was counterfeiting Behind the Green Door. And I said, "Hunter, I just got to ask you, what was your epic moment with the Hells Angels?" Because the book, Fear and Loathing was, it was compulsory reading in high school.
And it was your copy, Tom, of Fear and Loathing was my first copy of Fear.
He was just so down to earth, so not full of himself. It was just an epic moment in my life that this guy who meant so much to me on some of who hasn't taken a road trip at some point in their life and recreated small portions of that book. So I've met a lot of interesting people, but Jim Mitchell and Hunter, that was a very cool moment in my life.
That's awesome. That is totally awesome. Wow. Oh man, I don't know what's cooler though, Hunter or Jim Mitchell, man.
Yeah, Jim. To me at the time,
that's awesome.
Yeah, to me at the time, Jim Mitchell was one of the. First of all, I came from San Francisco, so that was a big deal. But Jim was really, a lot of people don't realize this. He of course, he was responsible for starting the theaters, the XXX theaters, but it was Jim that pretty much tried to push that industry into video. And he worked very closely. The man that I contracted with was a guy named Noel Bloom. And guys, you want to talk about surreal? Noel owned a company called Family Home Entertainment. And then he owned a company called Caballero Control Corporation. And you could look it up. Caballero is the one that did all the X-rated. Family Home did Strawberry Shortcake and other kinds of videos. And so when I was working there at night, sometimes I would walk into the control booth and there would be gay porn on a monitor, strawberry shortcake on a monitor, and 3 or 4 different types of other types of porn on the other monitors. And you really got to a point that you saw so much of it that it meant nothing to you anymore. Of course, it meant a lot to Max as a 13-year-old.
Sure.
So
he's been a
It's
fan
still-
of strawberry shortcake forever.
oh, you got to believe that.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Strawberry shortcake. Oh man. Well, let's.
Was Max a difficult kid to like when you first met him?
No,
I mean,
that's the difference between he and I. I really dug him right away. He's so gifted. He, you know him as what you see out there, but his initial talent was he's an unbelievable artist. I mean, he draws just amazing, and he blew me away. When I saw and I watched him draw for the first time. And if you haven't ever seen him draw, it would be a great visual video to put up there, because he draws kind of like from the bottom up. He doesn't make a face and then fill it in. He draws like the chin and all the surrounding stuff. So I watched him do that at 9 years old, and I'm like, holy crap. And he did Popeye better than, the cartoon. I mean, he was channeling back then, right? So I met him and he was just this cool kid, but I saw how much pain he was in. And guys, I was only 24, or 22. It's not like I was this old, but I saw how much pain he was, but he was so cool. I mean, so no, I never didn't like him. I always liked him from day one. Only now am I growing not to like him. I mean, it's taken 30 years, but it's an acquired
Why
thing.
is that? Why is it the longer you're with them, like you're so infatuated with them at first, right? And then the longer you stay with them, it's like,
drained your life.
You know what Max like to say? Max uses a term, the shine wears off the apple.
Yeah, actually, he's still full of plenty of surprises. As a matter of fact, he was just in Dallas visiting his new nephew. Boy, I'll tell you what, for 4 days we didn't stop laughing. I'm his biggest fan, and if he knows that, and he knows how much I love him. And I think the biggest travesty out there right now, guys, is that this guy doesn't have a show, because I see what's out there, and I see talent-wise what's out there.
I always thought that too.
It's pathetic, because if anybody should have a show, it should be him. And so,
especially now with all, I mean, you know what? I tell him with this wine show idea. I mean, this is right up his alley. I mean, this is perfect for so many channels. Many channels.
Yeah.
And he would just be amazing at it. Like, just watching him every week go to different farms would be, I mean, that alone is entertaining.
Guys, we were at the grocery store in Dallas, and a guy who had a wine, believe it or not, it's some random grocery store in Grapevine, Texas. They have this wine tasting. And there we were, standing in the wine aisle of a grocery store, and it could have been one of his episodes. He befriended the guy in 5 seconds, and they were best friends by the time we left. It was good stuff.
Yeah, he's really good at it, man. You're right. Hey, Tom, I'm with you. The dude should have a friggin' show.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Tom, you are a former police officer. You're going to help us out with some insight tonight to our little journey back in time. We're going to talk about Straight Outta Compton in just a minute. And then next episode, we're doing Colors and Blood In, Blood Out. We're looking forward to your insight. We're looking forward to more Max Cook stories. Let's get into it, guys. Let's do Straight Outta Compton. I'm going to do the introduction, and then let's start talking about some crazy LA gangsta nonsense. I am excited. Straight Outta Compton. Here I go.
He might not be a king, but he's got the gout like King Henry VIII. Please welcome the tobacco industry's leading advocate and our fearless leader, Mr. Tom. Knock your socks off, Deadlaw.
On the surface, Straight Outta Compton is a very sterile look into the late 80s, early 90s rise of one of the most infamous rap groups ever assembled, NWA. The film portrays a very clean portrait of the group, basically sticking to a typical beginning with a hit and a manager discovering them, major concert incidents, and a tour where the members tire of each other and begin the blame game, and then ultimately breaking up and discovering even more success on their own. Typical. I have to admit, I knew little to nothing about NWA going into this film because my rap knowledge basically consists of Public Enemy, Run DMC, and a few scattered others, so I was excited. I was ready for a down and dirty, goddamn gritty look into the world of West Coast hip-hop, but what I received was an at-best HBO film with little attitude. F. Gary Gray directs Straight Outta Compton using the musical movie guideline of, say, The Doors, the Buddy Holly story, and even La Bamba to tell his soaped-up story of a group of young black men who changed their respective music scene and become important voices of their generation. Basically, Straight Outta Compton has no balls at all, and that's an incredible injustice to these guys. I'm not saying there isn't a performance or two that moves me here. For instance, Jason Mitchell, as founding member Eazy-E, does an incredible job getting into the rhythms of his character, as does O'Shea Jackson Jr., who channels his father Ice Cube with the proper attitude and moxie. And let's not forget an always game Paul Giamatti as the band's manager, Jerry Heller. And trust me, Giamatti's doing more here than throwing on a wig. But overall, there just isn't enough substance. There's no attitude, no punk. And make no mistake about it, these dudes are punks in every musical way possible. Why is it I never see Eazy-E being the obvious sexual lush he is? He contracted AIDS, didn't he? Why is he shown as the most loyal lover this side of a Shakespearean play? Get dirty, Gray! Get dirty! You're gonna tell me assembling the likes of Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and Suge Knight? Suge fucking Knight! F. Gary Gray, and all we come up with is Cube smashing an office and Jerry Heller being verbally threatened in front of his home? That's the best we could do here? This movie is way too clean. And that sucks because there's really a chance to explore. I get it, these musical biopics are tough to do. They rarely work. But if you're gonna bitch and moan that a motion picture deserved the best pick nod, you gotta come up with more than this. Look, it's not an awful film. It really has some moments of true beauty and small doses of reality I could never understand. But it just plays out. It plays out like the usual rock biopic, and for me, it falls short. I wish these guys got more from their director. So maybe next time there's a Public Enemy movie lying around to be made, don't hire the guy who directed Law Abiding Citizen. Be cool. Oh, be cool. And A Man Apart. Please, I beg you, please hire a black director with guts like Spike Lee or Steve McQueen. And maybe, just maybe, a Best Picture nod can follow. Straight Outta Compton, boys.
You better watch your back, sucker.
Yeah, now I'm going to get it. I better run. Damn.
Gout-keeping motherfucker.
Yeah. I was excited to watch this film, Joe, to be honest with you. I really thought it would be interesting. And listen, there was some interesting stuff here, but I just think overall it doesn't bite, you know?
I agree with you in a lot of ways. Well, first and foremost, I just want to say that took a lot of balls to do that, because I'm sure if this thing does get a lot of hits on YouTube, you're going to take a lot of
Of course
flack
I am, but it's true.
I
wanted to just talk about the movie. I wanted to talk about the movie.
You can't do that. You got to talk about it. I mean, Well, you did it. You did a great job. I mean, you came out and you were completely honest. It's very difficult here for a bunch of white guys to come and talk about this culture. And
Of course.
I'm like you, so I'm exactly like you are. So it's on steady ground. But I do agree with you that it was a little bit too pedestrian. But at the same time, I thought it was more interesting because I like you had very little to
but that's,
little
but
knowledge
that's
of
the
this.
only reason why it was interesting, because I didn't know too much about them. I mean, God forbid I knew a lot about them. I would be even more disappointed with this draft.
I don't know. I think that it has less to do with homogenizing the subject matter than making the subjects look good. And that's what my take was, and I that was sort of the angle that I thought it was coming
Yeah, but
from.
don't you think that's wrong? Don't you?
I do. I just think that the reason why it didn't look, it's a good movie. It's a good movie, man. I enjoyed it, and there were some parts of it
best,
that
it's a decent movie at best.
Okay. Well, I thought it was probably a little bit. I thought it was a little bit better than that because yes, it does have that behind the music cliche formula vibe behind it, but because I don't have no knowledge of what's going on, I thought it was good, but yeah, it could have been a little bit more ballsy. But I think if I were to lodge a complaint about it, the biggest thing that I would complain about is that the producers were too interested in making themselves look like good guys and didn't want to get their fucking hands dirty because there's
that's the case, that's a problem. Then that's a problem with this picture.
Absolutely.
And then so the picture fails if that's the case.
In that
regard, absolutely.
In that regard, for sure. I agree with that.
Because there's no way I'm going to sit here and watch this whole story unfold, and then at the end, I learn that this guy died of AIDS, and then there's nothing before.
I know.
Like, that's just are you kidding me? And then you're not only that, but you're going to show the guy with this woman like he's just the most loyal, most loving. Yeah. Greatest relationship ever kind of guy.
He's going to have like 8 kids or something like that.
Mean, let's get real. If we're going to get real, let's get real.
Yeah, Dr. Dre, of course, he never did anything wrong.
Nothing.
He's like a fucking angel.
Right.
Like when he had Easy freaking beat the shit out, when he had Suge Knight beat the shit out. Oh, he didn't really intend that, but he just hinted that, and Dre is such a good guy that he can even admit that he ain't proud of everything that he done.
Right,
he did.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like Ice Cube was just continually friggin' victimized, and
But the best moment is when Cube goes into that office, and I mentioned that, like, when he goes into that office and him and his thug friends bash it up, like, that to me was like that took balls, like that was
it's balls, but he was righteous. It was a righteous move,
right, and that's fine,
But I would argue that he probably was. I don't know exactly what this is. Here, let's just put this out there. The real guy.
That's what F. Gary Gray did.
What's the guy's name? Jerry Heller. So I think he's brought a lawsuit against the producers of the film for libel or slander or whatever, because they're painting him in this picture, and all of a sudden they're shifting and squirming, saying, "Oh, but we never said that he did anything wrong explicitly," which it's kind of all hinting that they had to portray him as a bad guy, like they were cheating him, but probably really what was the case was like, they didn't know how much money they were supposed to be getting because they couldn't be bothered to read the contracts that they signed or whatever. Right. And then they're like, I know you owe me more money. Give me my fucking money. You know what I mean?
Or they were just too busy living their lavish lifestyle anyway.
Yeah. And they didn't understand the fact that somebody did really have to pay for the fucking hotels that they smashed. And all
the other crap. Yeah, that's how that works. That's how it works.
And it's just indicative. Look, it's fucking terrible when I'm doing this right now, but I mean, it's just indicative of that thing where they can't let themselves, like, even all the stuff in their music and everything is always about them looking good, and like, I look at what I got, look what I got.
Oh my God, listen to Joe.
And they can't, and they never can admit wrongdoing, and that's what the flaw of this movie is that they can't even show any of their weaknesses or their character flaws in this movie, which is a fault of the movie, which is really what we're talking about here, because I don't know anything about this guy's disclaimer.
There's no way in hell, Joe, that this picture deserved any kind of a Best Picture nomination. in my opinion.
Well,
And there was a little gripe about it.
Listen, there's plenty of movies out there that get Best Picture nods that don't deserve it. I don't.
Right.
But Forrest Gump win the
Yeah, we'll
fucking-
get off that. All right. No, fair enough, Joe. I was trying, but we'll get off that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Adam Shoulder, how was Straight Outta Compton?
Well, for me, it was a little more personal because, living out here in LA, it was very nostalgic for me. So I kind of connected to it that way. I didn't think it was a great film. I thought it was kind of cookie cutter, although I did like all the performances. But it was sort of a by the book biopic. But for me, it was the music, the nostalgia of it. Some of my early days, not even my early days in college, just college basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, for that reason, I liked it. But I don't know if it was a best picture. I don't know if it was a great film, but it was good. I liked it.
I think describing it as cookie cutter is perfect. I mean, to me, it was almost a paint by numbers. It was soft. They held a lot back, and to me, that was disappointing because there was a lot of interesting people here. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, after watching this movie and learning about Eazy-E and listening to him rap, I mean, like I went and I listened to their music and I really dig it. And there's so much here that can attract you to this culture, to this music, to the whole scene. But it just doesn't. To me, it just doesn't do enough, Adam.
And I'm a fan of the music because I have all the CDs. I listen to all these guys, and I enjoyed it. I saw this movie in the theater. I see like 4 movies in the theater a year, and this was one of the ones.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I went opening weekend. I was excited to see it, and
I thought you saw this at a drive-in.
I completely misremembered that. I thought I saw that up when it came out up at the drive-in in San Luis Obispo.
How do you not remember whether you saw a movie in a theater or a drive-in?
So that's a whole different topic. But my wife reminded me, no, we actually saw that over here at the Fallbrook Theaters. So
you don't even remember the fucking movie, is the truth, because you remember either being in an enclosed space or sitting in your car and listening to the movie through your speakers.
Well, environment doesn't have anything to do with plot. And by the way, I do remember it because Bill Murray was fantastic in it.
This is what I'm talking about.
Max, why would Adam be telling the truth?
I just think that's really sketchy and slippery. Because I talked to him a couple times about this. I talked to him a couple times about this. He doesn't even remember seeing the fucking movie. I think I saw that. I think I saw it.
No, I know I saw it.
And now he's saying he saw it in a theater. And here he is. Oh, I'm going to offer my opinion. Blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't remember seeing it.
Are you accusing
Max,
him of
what do
pulling
you
a
think he's
Taverny?
hiding?
I just think he's crazy sometimes. I love him with all my entrails, but the man is out of his mind. Oh yeah, well, it was this and that and blah blah blah. I didn't know he owned all the NWA CDs. That's not what we talked about. And then he's like, yeah, man, I saw that in the drive-in up north, and then he says he saw it in a theater. I would know if I saw the film, a fucking 2.5-hour movie about NWA. I would know if I saw it in a theater or in a drive-in.
I don't think it matters what movie it is. I would know if I saw whatever movie it was, whether it was in a theater or a drive-in.
No, I know I saw Star Wars at a drive-in.
That's crazy. A drive-in is a whole experience. We've got to put a cooler in the car, and we've got to hook up the thing to the speaker, and I know what I'm seeing at a drive-in.
You don't have to hook up anything anymore.
Yeah, they don't use speakers anymore, Max.
They just broadcast signals.
On the radio, right?
Yeah, it comes through your radio. You get to burn your battery out. It's a lot of
right, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam knows. He was just there.
Exactly.
I saw Star Wars there.
I can't wait to see your NWA CD collection.
I've got Eazy-E.
Can you take a picture of this NWA CD collection?
Sure. You got
it. Adam always has to be a part of everything. Oh yeah, man! Did I ever tell you the story about the Crips and the Bloods and me?
I don't understand what's going on here, Max. Are you saying that he doesn't have the NWA CD collection?
I don't know what he has. I've never seen him have
I just want
NWA.
to know what you're accusing him of here.
I have no
Cook.
problem admitting that I don't have NWA CD. Oh yeah, I have all the CDs.
But why would he make it up though? That's
I don't know, because he's crazy. He's weird.
like maybe he wants to have it, Max, but he doesn't have
He
it.
just wants to be a part of all history. You cannot bring up a personality without him. Oh yeah, man. Did I ever tell you about the time I hung out with that guy? Oh man, I partied with Jimmy Kahn. You never heard that story? And then next thing you know, it's like Jimmy Kahn is on the opposite end of a stadium, and Adam saw him, but they wound up partying.
But Cook,
Adam, what is Max accusing you
Well,
of?
here's
Yeah,
the
he's
thing.
calling out a phony.
I absolutely do exactly what he's talking about. But I will. But that is all. It's always.
Wait
done.
until you hear. I haven't even heard his NWA review. Mark my words, it's going to be him in a recording studio with NWA, and he's got that shit-eating grin on his face. He's drinking a beer. He's talking to Eazy-E. Snoop comes in, and they toke out together. You'll see.
I'm not reviewing NWA. Are we reviewing NWA?
Oh wait, Tom just did.
I just did that, you idiot.
All right, colors.
Can't
Hey
even
man,
bother
did I
to pay
ever tell you about
attention.
the time? that-
We talked plenty about Max, so he doesn't need to pay attention for the rest of the show.
No, I do exactly what he's talking about. Like I will have some random ass encounter with somebody at some event or something, and I will tell a story as if like, yeah, I was hanging out with this dude doing the thing. But the punchline is always revealing the fact that yeah, I had barely in any interaction with this person.
Oh my
So
god.
absolutely. So and so it's it's always done that way, and he knows it. He's just fucking with me.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I care about not knowing if you saw a movie in a theater with a roof over it or you saw it in a drive-in.
Yes, I was mistaken. I did not see that at the drive-in. I thought that for
But
some
you
reason.
told me that 8 times that you saw
was-
it at a drive-in.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I was excited about the film and wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yes. I had a false memory of seeing it at the drive-in, and then Vanessa said, "No, we saw that at the movie theater right down here in Woodland Hills." And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right. We did, didn't we? Never saw that one at the drive-in."
Am I the only one that thinks that's weird? I am, aren't I?
That's a little. I do think it's weird, but Joe, what I'm curious about really is Max suggesting that Adam isn't watching the movies?
I don't know what
I'm
he's
like
suggesting.
trying to figure
I don't
this
know what
out.
he's trying. What
Like,
he's
you
No,
asking.
I know he saw the film. He
I
told
think-
me he saw it.
I saw it with my
He
wife.
said,
and
"Oh yeah, I saw that," and I said, "Oh really? Oh my God, let's!" Because I love talking about movies with Adam. It's what we do.
Right.
Like half the time in our conversations are talking about things that we've seen. So I'm like, so this, so that, so that. Yeah, I was at a drive-in up in the SLO, which is San Luis Obispo. A drive-in he loves to go to. So you saw the drive-in. So I'm just now finding out it was in a theater.
No, but your timeline.
Did you or did you not?
Your timeline is we talked about that movie after I saw it. We didn't talk about seeing it at the drive-in until months later.
Oh my God.
I don't know, Tom. I have no idea what Adam's story is with these confusing these memories, whatever. But I do know that Max's dream job would be to be a lawyer in the Alice in Wonderland
Right.
court, and just be like arguing like cases that have absolutely no
Yeah,
meaning.
nothing.
Did you or did you not eat carrots on last Thursday?
I saw this movie as a relative.
Did you not eat carrots?
Not that great of a film. That's all.
Can you tell me where you were last New Year's Eve?
It's
I'm
true.
glad you all have such full lives that you don't even remember which structures you saw films in.
I remember the exact scene
Thank you.
when I watched Straight Outta Compton. I know where I was sitting in my living room, what if somebody was in there or not, blah blah blah, which light was on, which light wasn't on. I have full memory, full recollection of it.
Jesus fuck.
I swear-
feel
I
so
swear-
alone in this world sometimes, Tom.
No,
You know?
I swear, man, like I would know if I saw any movie,
But you
whether
see,
it was in a drive-in or a theater. I don't know. I could not possibly have that much going on in my life where I'm
I
like,
can't have that much. Well, Adam does have a lot going
That's-
on. But even to the point where he doesn't remember which venue, it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
that is crazy.
It's a little, and part of it I think is yes, I there's a lot in my mind, and then in terms of just life, and 2 is like I'm just sloughing off lots of layers of brain cells as I go here.
But Adam,
And, yeah.
this movie was. You watched this movie 15 years ago. It was like 15
Yeah, it was-
days ago.
Right. That's right.
That's fucking crazy.
This is why I'm gonna die in my 50s.
And for that, you deserve to be in Max's kangaroo court.
I'm very confounding to Max, and I understand it. I understand why I confound him sometimes.
You guys, this is
I don't
perfect
deny
timing.
that this is all
perfect
unusual
timing
stuff.
for Adam's madness. Okay, are you ready? So last
good.
Friday night, my wife hosted a work event at Staples Center. She got access to a suite, catered, invited people from work, and I got to go to see a Lakers game, Lakers versus Grizzlies. Now, Adam is a major basketball fan, and he loves the Clippers. That's the other Lakers basketball team. So we're talking, and I'm telling him how excited I am that I get to see the Lakers. Adam, I'm seeing the Lakers in a suite at the... You're not seeing the Lakers, my friend. No, you're not seeing the Lakers. You're seeing the Clippers, my friend. You are not seeing the Lakers. You are seeing the Clippers, my friend. You're not seeing the Lakers. And he's like almost hammering, almost taking the back of a hammer and knocking down my dreams. Like
Why is he?
I don't know, because he loves the Clippers so much. So it might have been a little bit of a jealousy thing, but he is hammering. You're not seeing the Clippers, or the Lakers. You're seeing the Clippers, my friend. The Clippers, the Clippers, the Clippers. Finally, I'm in my own head going, oh my God, I don't want to see a Clippers game. I don't want to go enjoy the benefits of the suite. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? You're right. You are seeing a Lakers game. What? Oh, yeah, I was wrong. I was thinking of another. Yeah. No, you're seeing the Lakers tomorrow night.
What is going on with you, Shoulder?
Dude.
Well, that was I just
terrifying.
Got the date wrong. I thought for sure there was a Clippers home game that night, and I was wrong.
But the power and insistence of me being wrong was like dominating, and it was like a... Remember Gerald Scarf's animations in Pink Floyd?
What you just said is very important. I got to back you before you even go to the analogy. What you just said is important. You just said the importance of you being wrong, and that is your interpretation of that. For me, I honestly thought there was a Clippers game that night, and I was actually excited and jealous because you were going to a suite to see what my favorite team play, and I was so excited. And that excitement, and then of course I found out, oh no, I was wrong. It was a Lakers game. It had nothing to do with you being wrong. That was your interpretation on that.
Oh, okay. So it turns around and winds up being me crazy. He's right.
No, I was completely
right.
What you described is 100%
but it was still
accurate.
a
Except
little weird.
It wasn't coming from a place having anything to do with feeling like somehow you were wrong and I was going to prove that. That had nothing to do with it at any point. Your description of how I handled it was exactly correct.
I agree.
And that's an important
No,
difference.
you wanted me to enjoy myself. No, who's jerking off? It sounds like someone
is
pulling. It sounds like someone
is
yanking taffy with a very wet.
I think that was your stepdad. It was
Tom, are you jerking off to the show?
Tom,
I don't even like the show that much, Mags.
I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing. Ready? Oh.
Well, I've been on mute, so it's not me. I just got off.
I've been on mute. Hey Tom, what's your experience with the with rap music?
Well, you know, my experience is that we got to kind of live it as it happens. See, right now people are taking for granted that there's rap music, and we got to be part of that whole scene where it never existed. Here, something never existed, and now it came out, and what the hell is it when it first came out? And then now it's something that is enormous. But let me just tell you what I think the movie missed.
Okay.
And that's the sense of danger that existed in Los Angeles at that time. Los Angeles was, it was dangerous, dudes. I mean, where these guys came from, they didn't really get that. When you watched it, you didn't get the sense of dread that made these guys so angry, that made these guys, come out with this type of music, that made them say the things they want. And you know, coming from a law enforcement background, I'm going to tell you that I didn't work in that area. Okay, worked in a predominantly Hispanic area, but I'll tell you that I had friends that worked for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department down in that area, and at that time, there was a lot of a lot of stuff that went on that probably was not portrayed even fully in the movie. They showed some, police, singling these guys out, but because of the sense of danger, there was a lot of police intervention, guys getting pulled over. I mean, there was an old saying You see a carload of black guys, they would call it a blood vessel. You know, hey, we're going to pull over a blood vessel, and that just meant that there's a car full of, you know, young black guys. They got treated differently, but they treated each other differently. Okay,
Yeah.
the murder rate down there was ridiculous. There's parts of the city, you know, that is just frightening to go to.
Right.
And before I got into law enforcement, I worked for a company that, you know, I drove a van delivering medical supplies, and one of the routes I did took me to East LA, which I got stories about that. Took me into Watts and Compton and Crenshaw, and dude, there were places made your asshole pucker, and I don't care what color you were. So I didn't get that sense. I think they missed that, because that's where that music was really crafted from, was that sense of frustration and the sense of danger.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. And you know, and with police, with, you know, the officers themselves, I mean, because, you know, in this film they really, you know, they get a bad rap here, wouldn't you say?
Well, I say some of it is well deserved, because that stuff did happen.
But that's the thing. I mean, how?
But it didn't.
How,
But let me explain. It didn't
Yeah.
happen arbitrarily, right?
Right.
It didn't just happen to four guys standing on the corner. Now, there will be people listening to this that will call bullshit on that.
right.
But
It's so dangerous. How difficult is it to be fair?
Well, let me explain something to you. When you're patrolling a community that's 98 or 99% one particular, you know, ethnicity, the majority of the people that live there are good people. So they're not singling out all the good people that live there. And I'm not saying there's good and there's bad, but there's people that create a lot of havoc. They shoot each other, they deal drugs, they rape, you know, they steal cars, they jack cars. And so when all you're dealing with on a daily basis are people that look the same way, you start to function in a way that was not even portrayed accurately in the movie. I think they made it too arbitrary. You know, the cops that I knew that enforced, they knew those guys, okay? They knew who they were. It wasn't a surprise. They didn't drive through a community and not know who the players are. And that's one of the, you know, when we'll get to in another movie, but that was one of the beauties of Colors. They knew who they were dealing with. So the fact that these guys continuously were singled out in this particular movie, I could accept that happened to them. But the reason that it happened to them, I don't think was adequately portrayed. And, you know, the ESPN did a great 30 for 30 story on the Raiders and the Raiders culture and how it tied into NWA. And that was far more cutting edge than what happened, you know, in this movie. And
I mean, the contention that's coming from the community is that police tended to treat all kids, all people, what they looked like, based on what they looked like, as criminals.
well, you're going to find that argument today too. I mean,
what does that mean, Joe? That they were just simply black?
Well, all right. Listen, I personally think I've never lived in Compton or whatever,
Right.
of course, but I think New Jersey has some of the biggest dick cops in the world, and I just know, you know, too, Tom.
Well, we
as
have
a kid,
city here that would rank, you know, second worst city in crime. I mean, next to Detroit. No,
yeah, but I'm not even
Yeah,
talking
right.
about that. I'm talking about like where we went to, even when I went to school, or my town, or my hometown was like lower middle class or whatever. But I just know that, just even on the fucking roads, the way that the cops behave, man. I honestly, they just, a lot of them, and I'm sure that you're not one of them, Tom, but they'll like tailgate you and wait for you to make
All
some
the
kind of
time it's
move.
happened.
You know, especially when I was young and had longer hair. And look, I am not comparing my experience to what's happening in the black community at all whatsoever. But I did come into contact with them enough to know that a lot of these guys
understand how
who
they
put on this
profile.
badge
You
use that badge,
Right.
not humbly, not serving a position in a community, but using it as a source of power to wield over those who are, you know, who they want to wield it over.
well,
Basically,
I think the times they are changing. Okay, so in the 70s, they, you know, in Los Angeles, when Daryl Gates was the police chief, they policed completely different. Okay, they basically, it was a fact. Okay, that if you got chased by the Los Angeles Police Department, if you ran your car and they chased you, you got beaten when they caught you. Okay, that was a fact. That's just part of the way it was. I'm not condoning it. I wasn't a cop at the time. But I've also been party to being pulled over with some friends of mine that had, a cigar box full of weed, and we were.
Nice.
It was illegal back then, and we could have easily been arrested. And the cop just took, basically made us take the cigar box and we threw the weed into the wind and let us go. So what I'm getting at is it's just
I've done that too. I've had that
It
as
depends
well,
on who-
but I've also had it where they just would pull me over because my hair was
Yeah.
long, and then they would look to see that, and then they would give me a ticket for any infraction. Back when I didn't have any money, I was working to get my ass through school and having to pay for my insurance and my car. Yeah, not that I had a car payment. I had a shitty fucking car that I couldn't really even keep up to date. And if I had a parking ticket down, they would just fucking haul me in, just basically following me. But they weren't following anybody else, looking for, like, scrutinizing them for something. And I could easily see how you could fall into a cycle where you get a ticket and you don't have a lot of money, and then you can't pay. So then they hound you because of the way you look, and then they find that you have an unpaid ticket, and then you have 2 unpaid tickets, and then before you know it, you don't have a license, and you got to get to you have to get to your job, and then you shouldn't be driving.
Dude, you're right
on and on
Joe.
and on.
That's
So
a reality to some people.
because somebody's because
look,
the cop is keeping their eye on you.
It would be naive for anybody to think that stuff doesn't go on. But one of the things that has changed since the time that I was working is that there. Okay, let me just tell you. In the city where I worked, there was an understanding. Basically, we had one large Hispanic gang, and it was like, you don't shit where you sleep, and we did not harass them consistently. Okay. We had a outlaw motorcycle gang there that had their clubhouse there. And I remember going to serve a warrant with one of the guys and knocked on the door. And the guy's name was Tom I was with. And I said, Tom, just you and me? He goes, yep. And knocked on the door. And basically the guy answered the door. And I forget the guy's name, but he said, hey, is Stinky there? He goes, yep, we got a warrant. And out comes Stinky. And we took him in. See, they had an understanding. If we can operate, with these set of rules that we all operate under, then we don't have to kick the door in and tear the whole place up. If you are a predominantly Mexican gang in the city, and you're at war with a gang outside the city, it's best that you do your business outside the city. Where these inner city officers worked, there was no safe zone. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now the biggest difference is there's a complete and total disregard and disrespect for whatever authority the police used to have. It used to be one of the weapons they carried. There's no fear of any consequences. There's been 11 officers killed, and it's only February. We used to go a year and not have 11 officers killed in the line of duty. So the climate is different. But back then, when this movie came out, where these kids was dangerous, and they got it from the police, and the police acted that way because it was dangerous. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The police didn't.
Yeah, it's
the police
a
didn't
vicious
just.
cycle.
Yeah, they just didn't show up and decide to be assholes. They lived. They patrolled a very dangerous area, and they weren't all white. That's the other thing that some of these shows don't get. Now, to give them credit, they did show some black cops, and I did appreciate that in the movie, because it was never always a white on black thing, although a lot of it was. Okay, there's certain cities like Linwood, where my ex-business partner was a police officer. They closed down that police department, guys, and the LA County Sheriff took it over because of the way that the community was being treated by. This is an all-black community that was being patrolled by an all-white police force. Okay, it didn't work out too well, and they closed it down, and the LA County Sheriffs took it over. So yes, I think there's a lot of that stuff that actually happened. I think a lot of it was accurate. I think some of it wasn't. And what they didn't portray was just how frickin' scary it was. There was a scene in that movie where they walked into a club. Apparently, the guys that were walking in were Crips, and they said this is a blood club. And they went there and were able to sit there and listen to the music. I promise you it didn't go down like that, because if it indeed it was a blood club and they walked in there with Crips, they would have been killed. It was just that simple. There was no there's no, oh, you're here for the music. Okay, don't worry about it. Then you're here to see the DJ.
Right. It's amazing. I was watching a documentary where a kid said that you know, his block, it was a Crip area, and then 2 blocks over, he was surrounded by a blood area. Kid said he didn't leave his block, you know, that 1 block radius in almost 5 years.
Terror. He
Stayed in that area because he would get killed if he left his area.
You know, Max, if you remember going to the Forum to see shows, you know, and Adam, you'll probably remember this. Yep. When the Forum, before they built Staples Centers, where the Kings and the Lakers played and where they had concerts, and we would go down there and we would park in businesses down the street because it was cheaper. But what most people don't realize is within 2 blocks outside of the Forum area was blood country, and I mean dangerous, more dangerous for young black youths than us. See, we could go walk to a hockey game or a basketball game, and we weren't. They never got messed with, never, not once.
And that's amazing you say it, because before I even really understood how really the concept of gangs, or really how prolific it was, I
don't know. Sorry.
Oh my God! Is that your ringtone?
That's an awesome ringtone.
Ding a ding a ding a ding ding. Happiness is here. Jang 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 a jang a jang. Is it a drive-in or a movie theater? Don't really know. Chang a chang. Don't really care. Chang a chang. This movie's palatable to old people. Chang a chang. If old people want to learn about gangster rap, chang a chang, this would be the film that they would get from Redbox. Chang a chang.
That's true. That's exactly what it is. It's palatable to old
Palatable.
people.
But yeah, there was this place on Century Boulevard. It's still there. There was like a hamburger stand and a malt stand, and my buddy and I used to always stop there and get burgers and before whatever event we were going to at the Forum, and we might be the only white guys there, but we never felt at all threatened.
Somebody's breathing really heavy.
Breathing on the phone.
That's unreal.
I'm sorry, I was not letting that go.
Who is that? Again,
Darth Vader.
You guys are just brutal.
Changa changa chang. Someone needs to lose some weight. They fall asleep while on Skype while talking about Straight Outta Compton.
Oh boy.
Hey boys, listen. This show has run extraordinarily long. It's what is it, Joe? About an hour past our usual runtime.
I think it's Tuesday.
So I definitely want to wrap this episode up. And listen,
Wait, Max has to chime in, Tom, please.
of course.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. I mean, about what?
You set him up.
Well, he didn't say what he had to say about. He didn't say what you thought about the
I
movie.
know, but I was just about to get to that.
Sorry.
And then, all right.
I
Okay.
thought you were
Let me do it. I'm gonna try it again.
All right. I admired the movie greatly because of the palatability, which is really crazy coming out of me. You know, it's so funny. Like 3 or 4 films can be made about a subject, but the fact that a film was finally made about NWA really excited me. And again, it's that nostalgic thing because I grew up in LA and everything else. I loved the characters, I loved the actors, and I loved being immersed in that epic, and yeah, you're absolutely right. It's edgeless and not nearly dangerous enough, but if we've got that for now, I thought it was really, really intriguing. I thought it was really cool, and I loved. And dare I say, I mean, all of the actors were astonishing, but
I agree with that. I absolutely.
That is one
think
thing
the
that
acting
was
awesome.
that was a sell to me here, that they all did a great job. All these guys really got into their characters. That Suge Knight guy, Max.
Oh my God. The Suge Knight biopic is in the can with him. It has to be.
It has to be. Was that the guy? Was he at the Oscars doing that? Was that the same guy?
Oh, the Oscar. Who's
that
jingling a baby toy?
That I don't know what that is. I heard it too. That guy does look like Suge Knight.
Yeah.
Let me just say one other thing. We lived in the San Fernando Valley, and Eazy-E moved from Compton to Westlake, Thousand Oaks area, guys. That's like moving. It doesn't get any whiter than that. And what the movie didn't really cover is just how up in arms all his neighbors were. Here's these uptight, rich white folks that had these houses, and he moved to that area, and those parties were portrayed pretty accurately from what I was told. It just raised all kinds of hell, and people were selling their houses because he moved in that area.
Of course.
I just want to say one more thing about Easy.
Sure.
If anyone who listens to this show loves the film Bad Lieutenant, they need to listen to Easy's opening song in that thing. It's unbelievable. And he samples Led Zeppelin's Cashmere.
Right. That's right. That's Eazy-E.
And it's through the film, but it's one of the great works of rap, musical art, whatever you want to call it, of all time.
Yeah, man. And
he really was a visionary artist. Very sad that he died, because I think it would be amazing. Like this Kanye West, I want to hit him over the head with a baseball bat.
I don't even know what's up with this dude.
There's no talent there. That's no talent.
Yeah.
But you got this Eazy-E. I mean, he could teach these guys who think they're tough guys, and they're not. They're not. He could really teach them a lesson, because he really had a vision.
Well, where's Suge Knight?
Much talent.
How come Suge Knight doesn't keep?
Well, Suge's in prison.
He is in
prison. I love
man.
Suge. And listen, I had a war with the LA Times, and then finally I stopped subscribing. And my wife said, "I know how much you miss reading the paper every morning. I'm gonna start a new account and put the paper in my name." Okay, great. So now the paper comes, still infrequently, but I still open up and immediately look for the Suge Knight stories. LA provides its villains in the best possible way. Tom, we were just talking about the People versus O.J. Simpson.
Brilliant.
What a time. What a time in my life when I was waiting tables, and any time that case popped up, it all just rang helter-skelter. And then Vincent Bugliosi wrote a book about it. And then, so there's so much crime history in this town.
Yeah.
There's so much gangbanger history in this town. And I feel like I'm constantly immersed in it just by living here. You can't escape it.
Yeah.
I want to know what war you had with the LA Times. Was it a kangaroo court type of war? Did you
Oh, you don't want to know my email.
Sales rep on the phone.
They would just not deliver my. This is a typical email.
Yeah.
Dear
it's
LA
like a
Times.
Greenberg email.
Dear LA Times, this morning my asshole is prolapsing. ... And why? ? Because once again I have not received my paper. Period. Why do you continue to choose to plug my asshole to the point where you blow it out and it goes into prolapse mode? Are you trying to kill me? I am dying slow death. Why can't you just deliver my fucking paper on time, you cock fucks? I love you, Max.
And that didn't get any response.
That's weird, right?
They dumped me.
Why would they take exception to something like that?
Yeah, it was so well written.
Like Dom Herrera, he closes. I don't mean that in a bad way, but
I love Dom.
Oh man! All right, guys, listen, we're gonna wrap things up, man. It was great talking straight out of Compton. Great reminiscing.
Tom, what are you wearing right now? Are you wearing like jeans and a dress shirt?
Yeah, I'm wearing a basically, sure.
Why don't you put on comfies when you get home?
I know I should.
Have like
Sometimes I do.
Tom.
Yeah. What? Yes.
Tom,
Go on.
don't you put on a cottony pajama pant and like a white T-shirt?
Listen, this is for me to know and for you to never find out. All right. So on that note, let's wrap things up. We're gonna.
Well done,
we're gonna
Tom.
be talking.
Congratulations.
We're gonna be talking.
He did it.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done, Tom.
Oh,
It took 100 episodes, but you finally did it, Tom.
Well done.
Good for you.
Wait. Tom, what did you have for dinner tonight?
oh, stop. Next week we're
Tom?
talking colors. We're talking blood in, blood out. We're going to continue our Bloods, Crips, and Fatos discussions. We got Tom Payson coming back, Max Cook, Adam Shoulder, Joe. We'll all be there. We're also going to talk about our least favorite moment that we've had on the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. I'd like to thank Jeremy Garcia of Dartboard Cinema for helping us out on the social networking. Definitely check out Joe's film work at christianaproductions.com and check out Max Cook's blog, maxcookuncorked.com. Check it out. Get over there. See what he's up to. Max, you just put something new up recently, didn't you?
Yes, about a catastrophic failure in my life. Read all about my failures.
All about Max's failures. Definitely. Max.
They'll make you feel good about yourself. I'll tell you that much.
Adam and his pilot Starland PC at
Hey, man.
starlandpc.com.
Whether I saw it in the theater, whether I saw it in the drive-in, don't matter, brother.
Don't matter.
Coasting through the cosmos, baby.
The music here is done by the Zillatones. Check them out at www.thezillatones.com, or you can search for them on Reverb Nation. The show's edited by Mr. Joe Christiana and produced by Joe and myself. Next week,
Lovingly produced.
Color.
Hey, Tom, did you ever find out if the Zillatones listen to the show?
They listen to us all the time, man. They're big fans. Colors, blood in, blood out. Crips, Bloods, Vatos, Mr. Moore, Mr. Tom Mason. Next time on the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. We're over and we're out. Ciao.
Tune in next time to satisfy more of your strange desires. The Cutting Room Movie Podcast. We do chicken right.